Hi there, Cancer. Thank you for joining me for your year 2013 forecast. In order to really give you something meaningful, I want to focus on the framework that's going to be affecting your situation this year, and then the detail can come from my weekly and monthly forecasts. But I do want to turn back to last year's solar and lunar eclipse, which occurred in November. Eclipses work in pairs, and this is something that's not always appreciated. And the eclipses that occurred in that month for you were in the 5th house for the sun or the solar eclipse, and in the 12th house for your lunar eclipse. Now it's going to be important through to May, the duration of this influence, for you to be creative, but to also make the most of your imagination with this. And it could be that some things that you've forgotten about from your past could come up into your mind and could be very useful to you. But equally, your fears and inhibitions can stop you from expressing yourself as much and as well as you could do. And remember, Saturn is now in your 5th solar house, which ain't a particularly easy area for Saturn when it comes to showing warmth, showing love, showing joyfulness, or demonstrating how much flair we've got. It can make us quite cool and self-contained. So there's a little bit of a clue for what you're carrying in from last year into this one. And then at the turn of this year, there's a lot of focus on Pluto, the planet of truth and transformation, which is combining with the Sun at the turn of the year. But it soon after combines with Mercury, and then later in January with Venus. I think one relationship is going to go through a major change as early as this in the year. That could be a relationship will come to a complete end. It may be that something has grown through its true usefulness for you, or maybe something will evolve for the better. But there could be some sparks flying, because Mars is in a sector of possession, of ownership, and clashes with Saturn from the 3rd to the 12th of January. So it gives you a little bit of an idea that if something is seen differently, there's an inequality in a relationship, it could come out quite soon. I think the balance of power in relationships are going to be shifting for a lot of Cancer people all through this year. Now there is an absolutely fabulous link between Mars, Uranus and Jupiter as this new year begins, suggesting that a lot of things can come up unexpectedly, particularly around your finances. And a job could also come up, a job opportunity or a chance to earn extra money. And it may come from someone putting in a good word for you or being very supportive, but in a very discreet manner for you. In fact, someone could play the role of a bit of a guru in the first 6 months of this year. But in the middle of February, Saturn starts to go backwards for 5.5 months. And at times it may feel as if you're walking through treacle when it comes to expressing the warmth that you want to access. Also, although Saturn is forging a fantastic link with Pluto for the first 3 months of this year, unfortunately Uranus starts to forge a very potentially difficult angle with Pluto for the rest of the year. Now, we had this aspect last year. It's a lot behind all the spring uprisings, the revelations that keep coming out into the open, because with Uranus in Aries, this is about a full a very enforced and quick moving energy, which is hard to contain. And normal ways of approaching things and conventions don't work. So any kind of control that's being put on you by someone influential, or you're trying to impose on someone influential, that can break down and it can cause some big stuff to come out into the open. We all have to be conscious of this. Now in May, there is a superb solar eclipse for you that occurs in the friendliest part of your horoscope, which on the face of it sounds fantastic and bubbly, but it's what it links to that is the key. And this one for you links in with Sagittarius, your 6th solar house. And this is saying to you that discipline is going to be very important. And if you're involved with a group of people, who does what, who contributes what, it's going to be important. If you're being too sacrificial, being too obliging, make a stand. But the same can be true in reverse. If you need to make more effort to help other people, this can come up from the auspices of this lunar and solar eclipse, which lasts for 6 months. Now, in the early part of June, there is a fantastic news story for you because Jupiter, the planet of expansion, of hope and of fortune traditionally, returns to your sign after a 12-year absence. And this is terrific. It can give you a real boost of optimism, and it can also see you much more inventive in the second half of this year. And it can bring slices of fortune for you, but Jupiter tends to work better when we don't take it for granted. So that means rolling up our sleeves. The more perspiration we show, the more lucky we get. Keep this in mind. Then in the last phase of the year, there is a lunar eclipse which occurs towards the end of October. Now this one occurs in a part of your horoscope that's to do with your feelings being very close to the surface, work, professional situations, responsibilities, and it links in with the solar eclipse, which links with Saturn in the early part of November. And I feel if you have got a desire to be creative, you're going to have to really apply yourself in the last couple of months of the year. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a walk in the park. And you also need to be conscious of those relationships because that's going to be a backdrop for the whole of this year. You can't necessarily assume that you'll always get your own way. Of course, many Cancerians are brilliant at being quite collegiate in your approach. Working collectively in cooperative ways is something you really, really like, as long as you don't feel that anyone is stifling you in any way. But it could be towards the end of this year, you are going to have to make some quite big trade-offs and compromises. It's been a pleasure being with you. Thank you for joining me. Good luck and goodbye for now.